Federal government's delegation visit Gusau condemns acts of students' abduction in its entirety.
Abducted Jangebe female students yet to be released, says Zamfara State government.
Federal High Court orders forfeiture of proceeds of vessel sale.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on banditry and kidnapping in the country, which way out.
Yeah, too many discourses at the different fora, online and offline. There are talks on the underlying causes of insecurity and the means of tackling such in different parts of the country.
You're right, Kirian, and of course the increasing threats to life and property. Every day we get confronted by it, especially of course with the ugly incidents of banditry and kidnapping running for several months now, and most especially in the northwestern part of the country.
And it is truly disheartening that within the period of 3 months from Kankara to Kagara and Jangebe in Talata Mafara of Katsina, Niger and Zamfara respectively, the abduction of students and some others in the environment calls to halt this very worrying social malaise, kidnapping.
And of course, there is this twin of banditry, which is also, of course, gaining momentum as the criminals and perpetrators appear to be emboldened by the day in their modus operandi, even daring to demand for negotiation with the state over those who are in their custody.
Yes, indeed, Kingsley, and we have also witnessed and heard of mediations and negotiations over abductees in some locations, brazen talks and threats from the criminal elements over seemingly weakened engagements of the different tiers of government. This certainly shouldn't be.
You're right, Kirian, and indeed this ought not to be. Now, the onslaught against banditry, kidnapping, and other forms of criminality should, experts say, be strategic in order to forestall a situation where, of course, the protection of life and property gets imperiled.
Well, and most certainly that is why President Muhammadu Buhari's message resonates on all fronts as his administration works on containing the ugly trend, warning the bandits not to mistake government's restraint for humanitarian goals of protecting innocent lives as a weakness or a sign of fear of irresolution.
According to President Buhari, no criminal group can be too strong to be defeated by the government. He adds, the only thing standing between the security forces and the bandits is the rule of engagement. Now, President Buhari warning to the bandits and other sponsors resonates with the fact that his administration will not succumb to blackmail by bandits who target school students in the expectation of huge ransom payment.
Yeah, but then, Kingsley, with renewed abductions, some are being rescued or freed. The cases come and other violent attacks fueled by banditry, skirmishes all over the place. Where should the common ground be for the nation to get out of this quagmire of distress on the school safety system, danger to lives and livelihoods, and the overall insecurity?
Well, pertinent questions you have raised there, Kirian. We shall, of course, pose those concerns as well as others to our guests in the course of our conversation segment on to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I'm Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority and reaching you from our headquarters studios in the nation's capital, Abuja.
And I'm Kirian Umay, also welcoming you to the program. The first in the new week and the new month of March. We shall have our complimentary segments as always, and that means we'll bring you morning news and of course those segments that will be a newspaper review business news, and others. For now, Nulin Ebel Ame is our guide on Good Morning News.
Good morning, Kirian and Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. The federal government has described the abduction of students of the government girls' secondary school, Jangebe, as inhumane and condemns the act in its totality. This is contained in President Muhammadu Buhari's message to the governor and the people of Zamfara State over the students' abduction. A federal government delegation led by Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika paid a sympathy visit to the state and enumerates federal government's readiness to beef up security and intensify the fight against banditry and terrorism in the country. The minister calls for collective prayers for the safety of the girls and their quick release. The governor of the state, Muhammad Bello Matawale, thanked President Buhari and reaffirms the state's commitment to synergize with the federal government to fight insecurity.
The wherewithal to attack frontally this banditry and events of this nature.
Because of the huge landmass of the state and different camps of the leaders of these banditry activities, we need more and more presence of security in such areas.
The Emir of Anka and Chairman Zamfara State Council of Chiefs, Alhaji Atahiru Muhammad Ahmed, has described the series of students' abduction in the northern part of the country as a monumental tragedy that spells doom for education sector in the region, saying decisive measures must be taken to address the profiling crime. The Emir made the remarks when he led other members of the council on a sympathy visit to Governor Bello Muhammad at Government House, Gusau, over the recent abduction of students at Government Girls Science Secondary School, Jangebe, in Talata Mafara local government area of the state. The monarch expressed regrets that the Zamfara incident is fifth in the series of students' abduction in the country within the last few years, with huge negative impact on the education sector in the region. Meanwhile, the Zamfara state government has debunked speculation in some online media outlets that the abducted students of Government Girls Science Secondary School, Jangebe, have been released. A statement by the press secretary to the governor, Jamilu Magaji, indicates that since Friday, when the girls were abducted by gunmen, Governor Bello Muhammad and his aides have been making frantic efforts to ensure the safe release of the victims. Magaji adds that such unfounded claims will only further hurt the victims' parents, government and the security agencies, while aggravating an already difficult situation. The state government will immediately and happily inform the world as soon as the girls are released, the statement concludes. Away from security to other issues now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has ruled out any increment in the ex-depot price of petrol in March 2021. A statement by the Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Dr. Kenny Obateru, indicates that the corporation is not contemplating any rise in the price of petrol in March in order not to jeopardize ongoing engagement with organized labor and other stakeholders on an acceptable framework that will not expose the ordinary Nigerian to any hardship. NNPC also cautioned petroleum product marketers not to engage in arbitrary price increase for hoarding of petrol in order not to create artificial scarcity and unnecessary hardship for Nigerians. The corporation adds that it has enough stock of petrol to keep the nation well supplied for over 40 days and urges motorists to avoid panic buying. The statement called on relevant regulatory authorities to step up monitoring of the activities of marketers with a view to sanctioning those involved in product hoarding or arbitrary increase of pump price. The federal government single treasury account TSA is to be boosted with the sum of $919,202. This is sequel to the order of the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, on the final forfeiture of the said amount being proceeds from the sale of a seized vessel to the federal government. The court specifically ordered Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, Port Harcourt branch, to remit the money into the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission ICPC Federal Government Recovery Account domiciled at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Employment generation, engaging the youth meaningfully and broadening the nation's security structure to accommodate the grassroots will help in curtailing the increased wave of violence across the country. This is the opinion of some Nigerians while speaking on checking violence across the country.
That's why we come out as an NGO to give our little we can do for this nation.
Peace and security is very important for any nation to develop, and we in the Niger Delta or South-South, we are not an exception.
By the time we start giving concession to the less privileged, peace will set in.
We have to return back to God. We have to fear. He said the fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom.
Youth of Niger Delta and Nigeria at large, we have a role to play to make sure there is peace.
To health matters now, Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has confirmed that the expected 4 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines will arrive the country on Tuesday, barring any change in plans. The SGF made this known in a video message released to the media last Saturday night.
Should depart India on the 1st of March 2021 at 10:30 p.m. in the night and arrive Abuja on the 2nd of March 2021 at about 11:10 a.m. in the morning. So we are making preparations for that. But the truth about it is that as we receive the vaccines, this one is coming from the covered facility, about 4 million doses of vaccines are coming from the covered facility on this one trip. We're supposed to have about 60 million in the first quarter from the covered facility. And expecting by the time they supply all the range, we are expecting that they will supply about 84 million doses from the covered facility, which is free of charge and is supposed to cover about 20% of the Nigerian population.
In the meantime, 240 new COVID-19 infections have been recorded in Nigeria in the last 24 hours, bringing Nigeria's caseload to 155,657. Data from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) indicate that the new infections occurred in 13 states and the FCT, beginning with Anambra, which recorded 85 cases, Lagos 82, Osun 17, Ogun 10, Kwara 9, FCT 8, Kano 7, Abia 6, Borno 4, Edo, Bayelsa and Kaduna recorded 2 cases each, Rivers 1. So far, 155,657 cases have been confirmed, while 133,768 COVID-19 cases have been discharged, and the death toll is now 1,907. That's the morning news for now. The program continues with Kinsley and Kieran after this break. I am Nolene Ebel Ame.
I bring you wonderful news. The village headmaster is coming back to your screen. Mo wire abi mi o wire. Teacher yo mo, a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Teacher yo mo, a fẹ́
Ajebo na better school for last gidi. Not be all this on a rugged school for Ijabi. I don't know for you.
Second, it's called Oja Village. Kadesi, we no happy at all.
And I know that even you too, you are getting a lot of orders too. Hey, we are trying, shall sweep her leg out. She was standing there. Sweep it.
I love you so much.
And how did I give you the impression that I was interested in that position?
50-year anniversary.
You mean anniversary?
I talk with that now.
Not for me. Not for me because of Pamio.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people, government has signed the health protection regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. And use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. Do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
My culture preaches peace. My culture preaches peace. My culture preaches peace. 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 My culture preaches peace.
Even our religion
preaches peace.
If our culture preaches peace, remember your culture. Use your voter's card. Vote peacefully
and wisely. We are one.
This message is from the National Council for Arts and Culture.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business, and let's listen in to our report by our correspondent, Chimobi Watananji.
The Speaker, Imo State House of Assembly, Paul Emezium, in company of other members of the Assembly, while paying a courtesy visit on the Chairman, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, appreciated the pace of work at the second Niger Bridge done by the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration and noted that the project, when completed, will improve standard of living for people in the zone and further open up business opportunities. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Victor Morocco, appealed to Imo and other states of the Federation to key into the Commission's mandate by establishing state-based fiscal responsibility commissions to give credence to accountability, social justice and transparency in the handling of government projects, as this will ensure the quick recovery of the nation's economy.
Opportunity to appeal to you, sir, that the state can benefit a lot in terms of compliance with fiscal responsibility. It's one of the indices that are used for some special grants in states that have adopted the law, have set up their fiscal responsibility agency, and that it is operational. I don't want this visit to go by without our achieving this.
And therefore, we cannot hide it, but to say thank you, Mr. President. We also know the worth of that project, and we can also see the speed at which the project is going. We believe that that project is already an achieved one.
Meanwhile, negative streak continues in the capital market as at the close of transactions on the nation's bourse for the week ended Friday 26 February 2021. The all-share index still pointed southwards, shedding 0.74% off its basis points. Let's see how the market fared at the close of trading for the week.
So it's been a red week in the sense that we had losses, in the main. The week on week, we are talking about a loss of 0.96%. As at the close of trading this Friday, the equities market is losing 0.74%. So if you take it week on week, we have 0.96% loss week on week. And it's not just for this week, really. The entire month has been a red month.
With business news, I'm Chimubi Walter Naji.
Yeah, thank you, Chimubi, for that package. And next is newspaper review.
Bayo Atoyebi, our newspaper reviewer, is with us in the studios this morning. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kiriel. Good morning,
welcome,
I
Nigeria.
hope you had a pleasant weekend.
Yes, very restful one. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Punch. Let's begin with Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate, reps demand documents on 2.2 trillion naira foreign domestic debt utilization. That's on page 20. There were plots to kidnap my children during consolidation, says Soludo. Soludo, of course, is the one-time governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The story is on page 37. JAM to announce sale of 2021-2022 form next week. That's on page 39. Fuel queues spread over looming price hike. It's on page 25. Now, below the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, Nigerians will be shocked by those behind schoolgirls' abduction, says Matawale. It has three riders to that. We're waiting for the arrival of the freed schoolgirls, the governor. Kidnapped students have not been released, says Commissioner. Zamfara girls not yet released, declares Commissioner of Police. The story is on page 2. Of course, the photo story is that of the Government Girls Junior Secondary School, Jangebe, in Talata Mafara Council area of Zamfara State. Of course, the lady who was shedding tears there had 2 of her daughters kidnapped. 2 of them. Tinubu Buhari weren't arrested for demanding Jonathan's resignation, says Falana. It's on page 39. Incitement, embattled Kano cleric forces scholars in debate Sunday. It's on page 38. NDLEA arrests Algeria-bound trafficker with 1 billion naira cocaine hidden in yogurt. That's on page 4. All right, and that's it on the Punch front page.
All right. Daily Trust newspaper. Inside extrajudicial killings by police officers enforcing COVID-19 lockdown. That's on page 4. That's a special report by the Daily Trust. Bandits killed 10 in Kaduna and Sokoto. How best to end banditry? Matawale, that's the governor of Zamfara State. There's an interview on pages 34 and 35 of the paper. Listore says with a kicker blockade, beef scarcity, rising cost of food items hit southern states. Food vendors lament. Afenifere and Pandef threaten retaliation. No going back unless, it's according to dealers, we are not part of strike. So then Mark Bam. And the photographs there on the front page described by the caption, low activities at Shasha Market and Lagos State Abattoir Complex, Okoba. Jangebe abduction will be the last. That's according to President Buhari. That's on page 7. Nigeria takes delivery of 3.93 million COVID-19 vaccine tomorrow, page 7. No fear price increase in March, according to NNPC. Igboho threatens Yoruba politicians with death over Oduduwa Republic, page 7. Ayo.
Thank you, Kinsley. Let's start with the latest report on the Jangebe Government Junior Girls Secondary School. The Commissioner for Information, Zamfara, Suleiman Anka, and the Commissioner of Police have all confirmed that the girls have not been released as yet. The abduction came soon after the students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, were released and transported to Mina. The release was achieved, according to information, by swapping 4 bandits who were in the custody of security men. They abducted 317 students at Jangebe came after a few hours after Governor Bello Matawalle announced that some bandits had surrendered their arms. In a statewide broadcast, the governor announced the closure of all boarding schools in the state and advised parents and family members of the victims to be calm because the students will soon be freed. He said there is a need for the nation to adopt a uniform strategy across so as to end these persistent instances of kidnapping. Meanwhile, the delegation, a sympathy delegation of Mr. President, led by the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, assured Nigerians that Friday's abduction of 372 Jangebe secondary school girls will be the last that will happen. The president, who said that he's saddened by the abduction, added that new measures have been developed to bring an end to all forms of criminality in the nation. Meanwhile, Governor Bello Matawalle, while receiving 17 emirs who came on a sympathy visit, said, "We are waiting for the arrivals of the schoolgirls today." The Punch reports that Matawalle said that revelation about the abduction of GSS Jangebe will shock many people. He emphasized that people will be shocked to know the people behind the abduction of the secondary school girls. He said he will not abandon his Speed Accord initiative with bandits, no matter what people say. He alleges that the people are uncomfortable with the result he is getting from this peace initiative and they want to sabotage it. He said arrangements are at foot to receive the abducted girls today. Meanwhile, last week, Daily Trust had published that the spate of kidnapping we have had across schools in the nation has seen about 829 students kidnapped. This started since April 2014, when we had 276 students kidnapped in Chibok. As of today, 107 of them are still outstanding. With the abduction of Jangebe girls, 317, the total students that have ever been kidnapped in the country comes to about 1,146. The abductions have been in 7 states, in Borno, Yobe, Lagos, Kaduna, Delta, Niger, and Zamfara State. Borno had Chibok girls, but that is only Chibok girls alone. There was abduction about students in Maiduguri Capital School. In Niger, aside from Kagara, there was abduction of students at Rijau that came as early as October 2016. In Lagos, we remember the Ebola Model School in 2014, where there were 2 instances where they were kidnapped there. In Yobe, 110 students of Dabchi were kidnapped. We still know that 1 girl is still outstanding. But before that time, 59 students were killed in their hostel at Buneyadi. This occurred in February of 2014, even before the Chibok schoolgirls. In Kaduna, there have been 4 instances of kidnap, and this happened at Engrave School at Kakao, Government Technical School Kajuru, Government Shepherd School at Kakao, and Prince Secondary School at Dambang Kaya. In Delta, there were 2 instances where 2 teachers were also abducted from Ohori Secondary School. Katsina, apart from 344 students of Kakara, there was also the Islamia students whose abduction, 80 of them were botched by the military. Zamfara now has 317 of these Jangebe girls, and they are currently said to be in Gulubi Forest. But expectations are high that they will be rescued, released to the government today. COVID-19, there were 240 cases yesterday in 12 states of the Federation and FCT. Anambra beat all the states to 85 cases and pushed Lagos to 82. On Saturday, we have 341. They are all indications that the figures are declining, but we are still not safe yet. As it is often said, it's not yet Uhuru. We must continue to adopt safe measures to ensure that we completely overcome COVID-19. There's good news as far as vaccines are concerned. COVID-19, which started in Nigeria here February 27, when we identified this first case, has scaled 1 year now. Globally, the cases are about 114.2 million cases. So far, about 2,541,000 have died. In the United States, about 28,585,000 cases, while with about 512,000 deaths. Nigeria, so far we have 155,659 cases, and we have lost 1,907 of our compatriots. Vaccines are coming in, and the chairman for the Presidential Task Force and Secretary of the Government of the Federation says that on 2nd of March, Nigeria is expecting 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. Subsequently, we are also to receive another 60 million that will come under the umbrella of the African coronavirus vaccine activities. In all, Nigeria will get about 84 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, which will take care of 20% of our population. But vaccine or no vaccine, we need to continue to have our non-pharmaceutical measures to make sure that we stay safe until the vaccines are here.
All right, Mario, thanks a lot. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at page 28 of the Daily Trust. There is a photograph there, sign language. Page 28 of the Daily Trust. We can have that. It says funny business signboards and street posters. It's been a while since we had this. All right, so you see the signboard there. Kofi Aaron, auto electrician and battle charger.
He will battle the battery to
battle
charge it.
Charger.
He will battle the battery to charge it.
We should look for him and send him after the bandits.
Well, the accused at filling stations, and this is not far-fetched. The expectations are that new pump prices are expected to be announced. But the sad thing is that filling stations have shut their doors. This morning, there are long queues in front of filling stations. Gates have not been opened. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association has given assurance that they are ready to evacuate petrol from depots to the filling stations. The NNPC has also assured that they are waiting for the outcome of the meeting with Labour, which has the intention of making sure that increase in fuel prices does not become a problem to the ordinary Nigerians. So far, spokesperson Obateru says there is not going to be any increase.
But this it didn't just start now. About last week, at the rumor about this increase started, and some stations shut down at that point. But of course, even after reassuring Nigerians that there's not going to be any increase in fuel price, I wonder why dealers will not go back again to not to open their fuel stations, and that's going to cause another panic buying this time around, because if it starts now, it may not end the next 1 month or thereabouts.
The reasons are not far-fetched. Crude oil has risen to about $60 or more now, and each time there is an increase because the subsidy has been removed, there was expectation that it should reflect at the pump price. So that is the expectation. In fact, the last time that the pump price was reviewed, the crude oil was about $52, and in spite of that, the federal government delegation is working with Labour to make sure that they temper the spate of increases.
Okay, well, there are bigger issues to deal with in this whole matter, but I'm sure we have the opportunity of returning to them at some point. Bayo, thanks a lot for being around today. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are reaching you live on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with how to deal with banditry and kidnapping so rampant in different parts of the country, particularly in the northwest.
The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA TV College Jos invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs. Intermediate online news reporting skills. Date 1st March to 12th March 2021. 2 weeks. Studio lighting indoor and outdoor. Date 1st March to 5th March 2021. 1 week. Modern trends in broadcast media marketing. Date 15th March to 9th April 2021. 4 weeks. Understanding public service rules and mastering the art of standard minute writing, reports, memoranda, and briefs. Date 15th February to 12th March 2021. 4 weeks. The course fee for the 4-week courses is 100,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 80,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 40,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all the courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people, government has signed the Health Protection Regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. And use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. Do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
And you are watching Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for staying with us up to this moment. As a prompt for our conversation this morning, let's get this background report by our correspondent, Oyemi Ajayi.
In recent time, the spate of kidnapping and banditry in parts of the country has brought cold chill down the spines of many who get scared of going out with the uncertainty of returning, and safely too. No part of the country can be said to be free as these criminals carry out their heinous activities, though some get killed while others tend to escape, and in all, victims tend to continue to increase with sad stories to tell. Some of these victims end up paying for their freedom, while some who even paid do end up being killed, just as those unable to pay also get killed. This development is said to be sending negative narrative which had affected some sectors of the economy, with some pausing activities due to fear of being attacked and kidnapped. From schools being attacked, disrupting academic activities, to travelers whose journeys are altered on the roads due to their being abducted. Farming businesses are already hampered in the course of conflicts spiraling from the activities of the banditry, amongst others. The brutal nature of these criminals can be felt in many areas of the society. Many have questioned the modus operandi of these criminals, with suspicion of accomplices within the society and even among the security agencies, and this has made apprehension, arrest and prosecution of these criminals such a Herculean task. These continuous sad reoccurring incidents have raised concerns to how long before the situation could be arrested. Where are the other gaps identified in the security architecture and growing internal threats of banditry and kidnapping?
And what are the roles of the people in exposing those with questionable characters in their communities? Well, these are some questions we will be requesting our guests to provide answers to in a short while, as they are already seated in the studio.
Thank you, Oyemi Ajayi. With us in the studios this morning to discuss this subject matter, let's welcome retired Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu. He's a security and defense consultant and also an expert in the Safe School Declaration. Pleasure to have you this morning, Group Captain.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios, regular security analyst, Dr. Kabir Adamo, is a security and risk management expert. Dr. Kabir, pleasure having you again.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning.
And we also have Dr. Ona Ekomu, President, Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. He's joining us via Zoom. Good morning and welcome. Well, we are looking forward to him joining us in a short while. Next, we have Professor Tanibi Alemika, Professor of Criminology and member Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, so on the split screen there, you can see Dr. Ona Ekomu is to the right of your screen and Professor Tanibi Alemika is to the left of your screen. Professor Alemika, let's begin the conversation with you because in recent times, of course, we've been discussing security issues and all the other three guests that we have introduced this morning have been our regulars. But of course, you also, you've been with us on a number of other security matters. How do you situate what is happening in terms of kidnapping for ransom in different parts of the country, and more particularly the abduction, mass abduction of school students from their hostels? The numbers are simply alarming.
Firstly, good morning. I think we are experiencing quite a very difficult, very sad, and very embarrassing situation with respect to banditry. I think we must start first. What is banditry? Banditry is a group of criminals or outlaws that operate more or less in rural communities or on the highways. So the two aspects, they are criminals, they are outlaws. They operate most of the time in rural communities and on the highways. And what to take from this is the fact that being in rural areas meant the presence of law, especially in the context of Nigeria. The presence of law, we say they are outlaw, that means they are not completely under the law or the capacity of law enforcement agency to regulate their activity, to prevent their activity and to ensure they are brought to justice when they commit their activity. So they operate in a place where the presence of law and the presence of government are weak. So if you apply that to Nigeria, people talk about ungoverned spaces. I'm not sure they are ungoverned. They are only governed by outlaws. So these people are governing, outlaws have taken over governance in many of those places. So we got here first because we never had long-term planning about how to secure Nigeria. We had for many, many decades operated as on ad hoc basis. A problem comes, we apply fire brigade and we solve it, we go home to rest until another one comes around. So basically it's lack of long-term security planning. And I continue to give a typical example of this lack of planning. Take our security agencies, perhaps with the exception of the military. There are no annual plan on how to replenish even their members of the security forces that retire, that somehow disengage from the various services. You have a police force that is about 300,000 in strength. And then, of course, of that strength, you expect to lose no less than, or disengage no less than about 8 to 10,000 per year. And then for 3 years, you did not recruit. After 3 years, you ask them to recruit 10,000. You have lost 30,000, you are only replacing with 10,000. Then you wait for another 3 years before you do that. So these are part of lack of long-term multiple planning. The second thing is even planning with respect to who does what, which agency is responsible. For example, today, who is responsible for rural area? Almost our security forces, until this banditry, are more or less concentrated in protecting the cities, and only certain part of the cities where the elites actually live, where you have over concentration on security forces. Even worse than that, even in those elite area, only people who either hold political offices, high political offices, or people who are, can afford by buying security are over policed in the sense of having almost detachment of security personnel from the various security forces, police, civil defense, and the rest of them, to police their area. So I think at this point, I just want to leave the absence of long-term planning about how to secure the country. And then the second, which is related, about equally long-term planning about the necessary capability and capacity and capability to protect the country. All right, thank you very much indeed. And let's bring in Ona Ekomu. Ona Ekomu, we have been discussing this issue with you sometime last week, and I can also remember some of your postulations with respect to the way and manner the security operatives are handling this issue. From what we read this morning on the National Daily, the governor of Zamfara State did say that Nigerians will be shocked when they know those who are behind the abduction of the students, in his state. What does that tell us? Does it mean that there are accomplices, there are possible accomplices, either within the security operatives or within the society? What do you make of that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kiran. Clearly, we do not expect that it's those guys carrying the AK-47 rifles in the bush that are doing the planning, that are procuring the weapons, that are moving the cash, that are paying the salaries. Those guys don't have the capacity, they don't have the brains to do that. So there will be brains, certainly, in the cities or even overseas, running this place. Remember, we live in a digital world now. People have mobile telephones, and people can make calls, you can send instructions, you can even make payments, you can move cash around without leaving the comfort of your living room. So what I'm saying is the governor is not saying anything new. The governor is saying what is already in the public domain, that a lot of bad guys, a lot of big guys, sorry, not bad guys, a lot of big guys are involved in this thing, and they are the brains behind it. They are benefiting from it. They are recruiting armies. They are recruiting capacity. They are providing weaponry to these bad guys, including RPGs and other pernicious weapons, F2 rifles, K2 rifles, sorry. And you have all kinds of stuff, good gear that is in the hands of these bandits. So what does this tell us in terms of opening this conversation? It says that we'll have a very big problem on our hands. It's not only about neutralizing the bandits, like Prof called them, the ones who are governing the ungoverned spaces now. So he says the ungoverned spaces are now governed by the bandits. Well, but I guess I don't know who voted for them to go and govern the ungoverned spaces, but that's another story. So it's not just that the bandits are governing the ungoverned spaces. They are promoters, they are planners, they are strategic thinkers. Because if you look at it, I mean, everything the bandits have done, we have discussed on this NTA program, your GMN. We have said that they are going to intensify attacks on schools because it evokes a lot of emotion. I remember Group Captain Sadiq saying that last time we had this conversation. And, they are so predictable. And so that's why it bothers me that our own security planners are not able to cash into their predictability, because if you look at the data, it tells us what is going on. And but I think I'll keep my opening comments short, just to bring my opening comments to a close. Governor Matawale has said something that is very important, that there are sponsors out there who, in fact, their names will shock us. So let us have those names so that we can go to the source. Sometimes you got to go to the source, the root of the problem, to deal with it, such that the leaves and the branches will wither away. And that is so very important. And this is, of course, where there's a problem in Nigeria. They always tell you, we know who the sponsors of terrorism are. It's only when they are arrested in Dubai that the truth comes out. But here in Nigeria, we don't seem to be able to tell the truth to ourselves. So it means we want these problems to continue flourishing and Nigerians to keep suffering and being under the yoke of outlaws and bandits and terrorists and insurgents.
Dr. Onoyehomu, thank you very much there for your opening salvo. Let's come to the studios. Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu. Well, another kidnap incident, this time 317, just only about 20 or so fewer than those who were picked up in Kankara. That was sometime in December. And of course, the entire world is again up and watching what is playing out in Nigeria. What does this tell us? What should it shock us into doing?
Well, it should shock us, in fact, a long time ago, since yesterday, since last year, to pay attention to security and safety in our schools. There is no more any doubt that school children have become the pawn in a chess game of this violence. Again, like Aikomu said, and I said last week, picking children from the school is one of the relatively easiest things that a bandit can do. There is so little risk to himself, that is the bandit, and there is very big return because you are carrying number. In addition with the emotional and the international uproar, especially when it happens to be female students that you are picking. So every criminal wants maximum return for little investment. And that's what the school offers. Now, can we secure all our schools and put security agencies all over? Again, like the first guest said, we don't have the numbers. We have so many schools, we have so many areas to cover, we don't have enough numbers. So I think we always come back, whether it is in the northeast, whether it is banditry, what is we have to accept that Nigeria is under-resourced in terms of human resources, in terms of equipment. And why I say equipment also, you'll find that these bandits, they don't go relatively far. They stay within those bushes. But the only thing they have come to realize is that the capacity of the security agencies to reach where they are is very little. None of them has crossed the border with these children to go to another country. They remain within. Maximum maybe a distance of 50, 30 kilometers. They are within there. But again, it's a function of equipment. You can surround and move into major highways, but can you penetrate the inner precincts of those forests? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the cameras when bandits are under foliage? Do you have the camera to pinpoint them? Because even when you say an aircraft is going, there are different kinds of cameras and optical devices. Some aircraft have them, some don't have them. Some, as soon as you are under a foliage, that is the end. The pilot will only go round and round and round. But then there are sophisticated equipment that will pick body heat, that will pick and pinpoint where those people are. We have to ask ourselves. I want this honest conversation between the security agencies, the executive branch, and the legislative branch. Just what kind of security personnel do we have, and what do we need? We certainly don't have what we need in terms of numbers, in terms of equipment, in terms of capacity. And as long as we don't do that, now again, I come to guarding any school is a very expensive endeavor when you look at it. But it's not as if all schools are helpless. We should prioritize at least schools that are located in conflict, challenged environments. We may not have to do the whole schools if we don't have, but let's concentrate. Let's put, even if it is minimum, from the government to school authorities to local communities, like I said, there's a role, that they can play. That is as far as schools are concerned. When you talk about general kidnapping again, also even as an individual, there are things you can do. You are not completely powerless. There are precautionary measures you could take in planning your journey. If it is a private, if it's a commercial vehicle, right from where people are entering. Because like this one in Niger State Transport Authority, I tend to believe there must have been an informant or even one of the bandits inside the vehicle. Because you need somebody to be giving you updates, where to attack and everything. If it is somebody coming to a house to pick somebody, there must have been some form of surveillance. No kidnapper attacks a place without surveillance, because that is the recipe for failure. So there must have been, but for somebody to observe surveillance, whether covert or overt, again, that person has to be a bit trained. So even a local guard, if he's trained, to fish out somebody who is paying an unhealthy attention to a house or to a school, even if he's not armed, he's in a position to do something. That is what I have to say.
All right, and let's bring in Kabiru Adamu here. Persistent mass abduction of students in Nigeria. What do you make of the situation?
The very fabric of our society is being attacked, and we should give it the attention that it deserves. And for that extent, I would like to commend NTA for consistently highlighting this topic. We need to, as a society, wake up to the call. We are in an emergency situation. Education is what would make or mar us. In particular, the North has been, almost every statistics that have been reeled out, you have the North at the bottom end of those statistics. And so where you have a situation where what would bring the North out of this unfortunate situation it has found itself is being attacked, then frankly it deserves more attention than it's getting at the moment. Now, having said that, I would differ a bit from what my three other co-discussants have mentioned. Our emphasis, and even the government's emphasis, have been on more or less on the kinetic approach. And the kinetic approach is more reactive. Things have happened, and we're trying to address them. As a risk manager, I will want to look at the root causes. Why are we where we are? In the last few days, I've listened to extensively, unfortunately they are not in the public space, but to participants, I've listened to their views, perspectives on why we're where we are. Number one, the breakdown of the value system that we have as a society. Why is someone before who perhaps was a harder, why all of a sudden he's in the possession of RPG? Now, my co-discussants have mentioned, perhaps the reasons why all of these RPGs, and in previous discussions we've mentioned that extensively, the porosity of our borders. Then, unlike what Dr. Ona said when he was speaking about the statement by the Zamfara state governor, I'm looking at it from a different approach. The centrifugal forces that are driving at our society, that's a root cause. There are centrifugal forces presently at play. Political is one of them. In particular, Zamfara State has a very unique centrifugal force. We all remember how the governor emerged, the circumstances that he emerged. His mandate is actually a bit questionable when you compare it with the number of votes that the other party had. And we've seen how that played out in the recently concluded elections in that state. So that's a very important root cause, the political centrifugal forces at play. Then the social centrifugal forces, and then the big one, the elephant in the room, the economic centrifugal force, the number of unemployed persons. And Zamfara State is actually at the peak of that. So these are issues that we need to pay very close attention to. The first one I mentioned, the collapse of the value system. How is that playing out? It ties us back to my earlier point. Education is a very critical influencer of the outcome of any security arrangement you want to play out. Why? Because it's that education that would give the youth perhaps a future. Now you have a situation where, frankly, the youth can no longer even go to school. Then what are women and children? So very, very critical that we look at those root causes. Climate change. No one is speaking about that, unfortunately. Now, the next one, which I would like to talk about, tied to this point I'm making, is the inability of the government at both the federal and the state level to use the various layers of security architecture at their disposal. As an example, the State Council, the Defense Council, the National Security Council, we are at a stage where our leaders need to come out with a single statement that would de-escalate the tension. The tension is very, very high. Religious bodies are issuing statements, governors are issuing statements, and the security architecture to come out together jointly to make a statement that would de-escalate that tension. So we can perhaps in the course of our conversation look at those root causes and then the mitigation measures, because by the theme of our gathering here is solutions. And perhaps in the course of the conversation we can talk about that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamo. Indeed, we'll return to the guests to begin to look at ways of getting out of the current maelstrom with respect to banditry and kidnapping. We have our correspondent, Shehu Mohammed Dati, who is at Jangebe in Talata Mafara local government area of Zamfara. That's the epicenter of the latest kidnap incident. You can see our correspondent there, Shehu. Pleasure to have you this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. What's the situation in Jangebe?
Very good morning, sir. Jangebe is calm. They are still going about their normal activities. I can see even students still going to school. We are just few steps away from the GGSS Jangebe, where the incident happened on Friday. And since on Friday that we came in, the town is calm. Nothing is going on. The only thing is that they want to see the students back. That is all they talk about. As of yesterday, when one of the media outfits broke the news that the students had been released, it was the talk of the town everywhere, but we later realized that it wasn't true. So the situation now is still calm. They are still waiting to see how the students will return to Jangebe.
Yes, Shehu, indeed, one can understand that the situation is such that the residents of the area where this incident took place will not, of course, come to terms with reality until these students are released. What are people saying? What is dominating conversation in that area now that the students are yet to be released?
Yeah, the conversation is they are saying it was a false alarm that was raised yesterday, saying that the students have been released, when later they realized that it's not true. So that has been the topic of discussion as at yesterday up to maybe this morning, because they are still in their houses, while some other are still going to other places for their normal activities. Behind me here, you can see there is a police post. Immediately after it, there is another one as well. They are all close to the school. But actually, the talk of the town is, why is it that there was a false alarm yesterday that the students have been released? We are made to understand that some people said the students have been released and they are at the MS Palace in Anka. Later, when we investigated, we found out that 17 out of the 317 that were kidnapped escaped. Hello?
Yes,
go ahead.
We can hear you, Shehu.
There was a rumor that the students were in the MS Palace in Anka yesterday, but it wasn't true. We were made to understand that it wasn't true. There were no students that are there. So they still talk about how the students will come back and why is it that there is a rumor that the students have been released.
Sure. Tell us something about the geo profile of Jangebe. Is it a big town or is it a small town? I remember the name Jangebe about 20 years ago when a gentleman who went by that name was tried under Sharia law for allegedly stealing a cow. He was found guilty and his hand was cut off. But tell us, is Jangebe, is it a big place or a small place? And are there other security formations in the town that might have staved off the assault by the kidnappers?
Well, actually, Jengebe is a big town, is a large town, extended, and there are 2 police outposts. As at Friday that we came in, yeah, there are 2 police outposts. Behind me is one. After this, there is another police outpost there, and they are all armed. I just don't know whether there are many in there, but we can see about 5 here, and after this, there are others there. Amalgamation of the police, poles, and army as well. So Jengebe is indeed a big town.
Have you had the opportunity of speaking with any of the parents of the abductees and what their mood is like at this time? Certainly it will not be pleasant, but have you had the privilege of interacting with any of the parents or relatives of the students who were abducted?
Yeah, we had opportunity of speaking with not only one of the parents. I think about 3 we've spoken with, and what they are saying is the government should intensify effort to see that the abductees are released. That has been their own agitation. That is what they only want to see. We've spoken with one that has 3 of his daughters taken away. He says what he only wants the government is to intensify effort to see that those students return home.
Yeah, but actually one of the newspapers we had this morning showed a lady who said that 2 of her children were involved in it, and of course she was crying so profusely. Shehu, before we let you go, let us understand this, where the school is situated. Is it within the town or the outskirts of the town? Because many are wondering how the abductors, how it was so easy for the abductors to get into the school, and they removed over 317 children without anybody noticing their action within over an hour that they spent in that school.
Yeah, actually the school is at the main road. Just where I'm standing now is just few steps here, and it's just you coming into the town of Jengebe. The school is situated there, and they can easily go in. Why? Because there is only one security man at the gate of the school, and he's not that fully armed. And what they did was, we are meant to understand what they did. They came in large number, surrounded the outposts, the 2 outposts that are close to the school before they start operating. Equally, they surrounded the school. They went about 50 of them into the school. Equally, we were meant to understand that 2 Hilux vans came, dropped them in the gate of the school, and then went away. So they will have the opportunity of surrounding the school and make their way into the school easily.
Well, Shehu, when we interacted with our correspondent who was at Kagara in Niger State, following the abduction of students and some staff and other residents of the Government Science College in that state in Niger, part of what emerged was that on the eve of the assault on the college itself, there had been telltale signs of the movements of some of these bandits. Some of the surrounding villages had been sacked, and the security guard had noticed a couple of unusual movements by persons who look like stragglers, but obviously on a reconnaissance mission. What have you gathered from Jangebe? It's a big town, but were there assaults in and around the vicinity before well, that's a cameraman there taking a shot of a kid on a bike. Life goes on for that child, and best of luck to the baby. All right, so Shehu, just to get a point, so what happened a day or 2 on the eve of the assault in and around Jangebe itself?
All right. We actually asked that question, but we are to understand that there wasn't any assault in either close by or in Jangebe village, not even within the villages. They only came, maybe they have made their arrangement earlier. They earlier went to one of the schools that is in the town, but they are meant to understand that that wasn't the school that the students are. So they now now move ahead to come to the GGSS Jengebe. But there wasn't any assault of such in anywhere, whether in the Jengebe town or within Jengebe.
Okay, I don't know whether you can hear me, but again, we're being asked to, okay, sorry about that. I wanted to find out from him whether we have a vigilante, in that community, because every community these days have a vigilante group, that
right.
also monitor the entire vicinity of the community. Right, thank you, Shehu, for reaching us this morning. Thank you indeed. If there is need, we might return to you for further conversations on what is happening in Jengebe, with respect to the release of the students, which is being expected by all Nigerians. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, Kieran, while we were having that interaction with our correspondent Shehu, Dr. Kabir Adamo was indicating that an official of the Zamfara state government was earlier quoted as saying that the number is probably not 317, but something fewer than 300, probably about 297. So we'll see how we confirm that, but obviously that will be nearly 300 still who are out there at this time. So our deep thanks to our correspondent, Shehu Mohammed Dati. Now let's come back to our guests via Zoom, Professor Etanibi Alemika. Professor Alemika, Dr. Kabiru, and indeed all of you raised very important points. But let's take a look at this. Following the incessant mass abduction, we have seen the reaction of some state governments. Niger State, of course, has closed some of the boarding schools. Sokoto State has also closed boarding schools outside of the metropolis. Zamfara has done the same thing. Kano has gone ahead to close 4 tertiary institutions owned by the state government. Some persons would argue that in a sense, this is almost a realization of one of the key objectives of Boko Haram. What is your reaction? And therefore, how should we begin to approach this issue?
Thank you. I think it's very critical to begin to try to understand. And I think this is where the intelligence services can help us. We all say banditry, banditry, banditry. Are we dealing with just banditry, or are we dealing with an alliance between banditry and terrorist group like Boko Haram? We need to have more, well, I do hope they have more information on that. But I think effort should be made to begin to question, to begin to address some of these issues. You will recall when there was this serious problem in the Niger Delta, every criminality in Niger Delta was attributed to militancy. When Yaradua government gave amnesty, and more or less a lot of the militants, in quote, repented and were placed on stipends, criminality had not disappeared from that area. Pipeline vandalization had not disappeared. It had reduced, but it has not disappeared. So it meant that we didn't actually disaggregate what was going on there sufficiently. And I think we must be suspecting something like that with respect to banditry, the large, the focus on very large scale institutions in abduction. Of course, like people say, are this banditry almost transmuting to terrorism? And then, of course, they are sourcing their resources through kidnapping. I just think there are a lot of things we need to know that I'm not sure we know for now. And I think that hard work needs to be done to be able to, address some of these issues, including the one you have raised, whether indeed these are not some part of collaboration in which Boko Haram is achieving itself. And I think almost all of us on this program know that when you dislodge a terrorist group from its sanctuary, it's spread out in terms of cells. And at that point, it can actually be more potent, more dangerous than when they have a sanctuary with more or less a territory where the fight is taking place. Again, I don't know how much we paid attention to all of this. For me, and that is why I keep saying, the issue of security, long-term security planning, security policy that is effectively understood by the community and all stakeholders in society, and capacity and capabilities of security agencies. Apart from non-kinetic, this thing, it does appear we don't have any coordinated plan, bringing these things together. So I suspect, as you said, that we're dealing more than just, people who are out there and just look for ransom and are targeting school. They are targeting first and foremost the heart of what Northern Nigeria need to do to catch up with the rest of the world, which is education. And that's what Boko Haram said it didn't want, terrorists said was haram. So I think we need a lot more information in this respect. Our security intelligence agencies, I do hope they have this information, and I do hope it will begin to guide their activities, and government will begin to use it also more or less to galvanize society in an effort to attempt to attack this challenge.
Well, Dr. Olaihomu, maybe you would like to also speak to this. Many schools are being shut down as a result of banditry and the mass abduction that's been going on for some time now. What does that tell you? Because as Kingsley rightly put it, it is the Boko Haram's dreams are being fulfilled because they never wanted any kind of Western education at all in parts of the north.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kieran, for that question. Well, I think I devoted a whole chapter to school in my book, my new book on Boko Haram, titled Boko Haram, to school attacks, chapter 8. And all of these factors we are talking about here, I analyzed them there. And so maybe I'll send a copy to Honorable Kingsley, and he can read it, and maybe next time we chat, he can take me up on some issues there. But having said that, I think it's clear, like Professor Lemika has said, there is clearly a metastasis, and I've made that argument over and over. There's a metastasis of the threat, of the BH threat around the country. We know that BH has gone abroad meaning beyond the northeast. So BH is everywhere. Now the threat of the banditry, the southwest banditry, is connected to the problem of the Mujao and that economic jihadism. That's what I called it in yesterday's Punch. That's coming into the country from the northwest axis, from Algeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and into Nigeria. And that, of course, I think somebody just mentioned porous borders. I think it was Kabir that said something about porous borders a minute ago. And so those kinds of things, they are just complicating factors. So I think schools are targeted clearly. And for the real reason that Group Captain Shehu Sadiq had said last time, that because as parents, we become emotionally involved when our children are attacked, when our children are involved. And so it takes on a different meaning. They got a bus load of 50 or 60 persons the other day in Niger State. Nobody was bothered. But when they kidnapped 27 from Kagara, it became a big deal because children were involved. But I think I want to just back up. I want to go to the solutions. I'm tired of talking about the problems. And I think every Nigerian is almost an expert in the problems now. There is definitely a need to focus on effective leadership in this country. That is really what is lacking, and that is what is dragging everything back. So everything we have spoken about, Professor Lemika's security planning argument, Kabir's value system, Mr. Group Captain Shadik's arguments, they are all tied into this problem of poor and lack of leadership. And so what do I mean by lack of leadership? Well, we have, number one, we spoke about intelligence. I think Professor Alemika was talking about the intelligence agencies. Where is the leadership from that agency? Well, but I don't even want to go to the agencies yet. I want to stick with the political leadership, because those are the people we vote to lead us in the country. So let us look at first look at our local government chairman, look at our state governors, and then look at the federal level. You know, for example, something has just happened in, okay, let's go to Kankara. We had the 344 schoolboys that were returned at Kankara. Over 500 were seized, many escaped, but we got 344 back, and thank God everything is over. What is Katsina state government doing about an in-depth study of that problem, such that it can glean proper intelligence, proper information, refined information about what happened there, such that this can be prevented in future? I hear a lot of belly aching about complaining from state governments, oh, we are not chief security officer, but you have so much latitude. You have a lot of powers, many things that you can do. Kankara has happened. What have you done now to do a post-mortem? In fact, in intelligence analysis, we do pre-mortem. We dissect the dead body before it's dead. Now we are saying the dead body has died already. Do the post-mortem. And these Africans cannot, they don't even want to get the information. And you have brilliant guys like Alemika, Kabir, Shehu there. Nobody's calling on them to come and do some of these things for them. You must have the information, you must have the knowledge, deep knowledge of what happened, so that you can cure that disease. If not, the disease will kill the organism. You know, that's from intelligence. What about experiencing? We have gone through these things. We've experienced these adversities. What lessons are we taking away from those adversities? How was it handled? How are we sharing? Who is writing? I want to see more books on these things, not just discussion. Honorable Kingsley, you are an expert in this thing. I need to see some books from you on this, and looking at case studies of what happened, not just generalization or blaming the colonial masters. Colonial masters have long gone. Let's face our problems as Nigerians. We need originality in our leadership. We have to come up with new models of thinking and leading. Nigeria has unique issues. We are the only country that has problems with religion, problems with ethnic divide, problems with, north-south regional divide. We have even politics. Our politics is the one that, in my language, you say politics not a barrier. Say politics that you kill people for. You know, this is the only country that has that kind of politics. Politics is a place, it's a forum where you share your ideas. But here we take it to the hilt. We want to eliminate the opponent. So these are some leadership issues that bedevil us, that make it impossible for us to, meet our promise as a nation. And we must solve this security conundrum by bringing effective leadership forward, at all levels.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Onaiyekwome. I hope you were not telling our viewers that I'm an expert in banditry, so that I don't go and do a book on banditry, indicating my experience, but certainly that's far from it. Thank you very much there for your perspective. I want to skip Group Captain Sadiq. In the meantime, I'll come to Dr. Kabir, but we'll return to Group Captain Sadiq on the basis of what you said. Looking at the geography of Zamfara, looking at the politics of Zamfara itself and other occurrences around the northwest region, plus the comments attributed to the governor that if you know those who are behind the incidents, you will be shocked. And we're saying, look, you guys have said, shock us so that we know what to do. But again, the issue of the intelligence community comes in here. Should the intelligence community be waiting for the general populace to be shocked before acting to get out who these potential shockers are? That's one. If there are funds and there are huge funds involved, why is it apparently challenging to trace, track, and get those who are in charge of these funds? And thirdly, I know it's not easy, but it's also not rocket science, as some experts would say. For tens of abductors to plan, they must communicate. The communication could be non-verbal, it could be verbal. The verbal communication could be interpersonal or over channels. why does it appear difficult to intercept communication? Why does it appear difficult? I mean, we saw what happened. We see what happens in some circumstances. It's very easy to pick up a few persons, maybe because those ones are in the cities, and then when you go to remote locations, it becomes, a bit. Why? So that, look, we've had you on Good Morning Nigeria. We've also had Dr. Ona Ekomo on Good Morning Nigeria. I recall on that occasion, probably about a year or more ago, there was a terror incident in France, in Paris. And there was a threat of another terror incident. And the security agencies, as though you were watching the movie, went from location to location where they were busting the planners. And it looked like a movie, but they said, look, it wasn't really a movie. These guys were acting on prior intelligence. They were acting on their dossier. So at the right time, they picked it up. Is it a matter of lack of capacity or absence of political will to act?
A combination of both, unfortunately. I am of the opinion, and I stand to be corrected, that we have capable intelligence availability in Nigeria. I keep on saying this. There are 27 ministries, departments, and agencies in Nigeria. Each of these 27 ministries and departments have an intelligence function. But the challenge has always been the fusion of that intelligence. America woke up to the importance of fusion of intelligence after 9/11. We haven't yet realized that. But the good thing is that the Office of the National Security Advisor has gone really far in an attempt to establish that fusion. And if I'm right, I don't want to be the one to let out the cat from the bag, but he's about to launch a fusion center here in Abuja. If I'm right, the building has already been completed. What is remaining is all the paraphernalia, the various platforms that will allow for the fusion. And then if we go back, Mr. President has actually directed in both public statements and in written statements for the establishment of fusion centers. If I remember well, one in Abuja and then the other one in the northeast. So there is the realization and there is the political will, because Mr. President is the commander-in-chief and he has issued that directive. Now, what are the players doing? There are challenges among the players, unfortunately, and we need to admit that. Rivalry, sometimes operating in silos, and then sometimes, and this is very important, intelligence is a function of the requirement of the person given the tasking. As an example, and we've agreed to this, I don't need to repeat it, but the remote areas, unfortunately, don't have the kind of security presence that we have in the cities. So if the receiver does not see that priority for intelligence at that remote center, the likelihood is that the agencies that are in charge of intelligence are not likely to prioritize those remote areas. But with this type of development and the consequences it's facing, I see a shift in that area. Now, also, let's go back to the launch of the revised National Security Strategy document 2019. We were promised in that document that there will be a paradigm shift. I'm quoting the National Security Advisor almost verbatim, from the state-centric approach to security to a human approach to security. And he listed several factors to achieve that. Unfortunately, it is the implementation of that strategy that is lacking at the moment.